Good evening. I am here with Andrew Moore from Lenton Brae Winery in Margaret River, Australia. It's the eve of Australia Day 2023. So we've abducted Andrew to talk to us a bit about Lenton Brae and tell us a bit more about Margaret River and Lenton Brae in particular. Andrew, first things first, tell us about Lenton Brae. Tell us about the winery and the people behind it.
So Lenton Brae is one of the original Margaret River wineries. It's 40 years old. Margaret River itself is only about 55 years old. Wow. So it's a newish region, I guess, in world wine terms. Mm-hmm. Lenton Brae was started by the Tomlinson family, and it's now run by the Jackson family. And my role there is to build the winery into one of the great wineries of Margaret River, and I've got a magnificent heritage that was started by the Tomlinsons that we can build on, which is so much fun, actually. Fantastic.
That's a very exciting way to have it. So is Lenton Brae big, small, medium?
We'd be in the medium size, so small to medium.
Small to medium.
Yeah. So it's a boutique size winery. It's not mass produced, but Margaret River generally only produces a very small amount of the country's crush. We're less than 2%, 1.8% of the whole crush in Margaret River.
But you did tell us a very interesting statistic, which is that Margaret River, despite being less than 2% of the grapes harvested, is responsible for a huge number of the awards won.
28% of the country's awards are won by Margaret River producers. And if you just isolate it down into Chardonnay and Cabernet, it's up to 60, 70%.
Wow, that is spectacular. That is as good a reason as any to be drinking some of their Chardonnay, actually. So tell us a bit about Margaret River. I'm saying for myself, because I'm not very good at geography perhaps, but where exactly is Margaret River in Australia?
So it's in Western Australia. So Australia is the size of the US, which a lot of people understand. So you put that right in perspective. You've got Sydney here and then Perth there. That's San Francisco, New York. And so then we're 3 hours south of Perth. So you've got the Indian Ocean on our border. Margaret River runs from an area called Busselton down to Augusta, which is 100 kilometres long. So it's actually quite a long region, but it's a very short region. A gentleman it goes across the 56 parallel line, and a guy called John Gladstone actually wrote a book about it, and he said this was perfect because it was so much like Bordeaux to him in the climate and all that.
And when did he write that?
He wrote it in the early 50s, 1952.
Wow.
And the first plantings were in 1967.
So it was very ahead of his time.
Yes.
On that one.
Yeah.
So tell us about Margaret River as an area, but also the grapes. Is it known for one particular style of grape? Is it famous for everything? What does it do?
I don't think any region in the world can be famous for everything. I mean, we do grow a lot of interesting styles, but if you wanted to say what's world class about Margaret River, it is Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay. And it also does the Bordeaux, the original white blend from Bordeaux, which is Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc.
Which is one of my favourite wines, it has to be said. I absolutely adore that Bordeaux blend. And actually, I don't really mind where it comes from because it always has that succulence and that excitement to it. So tell us, in terms of the vineyard, what are you doing in the vineyard? Are you organic? Are you biodynamic?
We're minimal intervention. Mm-hmm. So Russell, our viticulturist, doesn't really need to put a lot on the vineyard. So we're not far from the coast. It's 5 minutes to drive to the ocean. Mm-hmm. So we cool down at night beautifully. So the vines get their sleep.
But that doesn't bring in damp conditions.
No, Western Australia is very dry. We don't have a lot of humidity. Mm-hmm. The only time the vines get slightly humid is about now, actually, when we put the nets over the Chardonnay and then eventually the Cabernet. But right now, last week, we put the nets on the Cabernet so the birds don't eat the fruit. So
does that change the microclimate then around the fruit?
It changes the microclimate, becomes slightly humid.
Which is why they get damp at this stage.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. But there's no more spraying. Nothing goes on from now on.
But if you didn't put the nets, the birds would have the lot.
They do. It depends on the blossom. They prefer the blossom on the trees, which is interesting. So when you have a good year where you're not going to have a lot of bird pressure, as we call it, you look at the blossom up on the trees, you go, well, there's a lot of blossom. If there's not a lot of blossom, that means they're going to come down to the vines.
If there is a lot of blossom, can you risk not netting the vines, or would you just wouldn't do that?
Too dangerous, yeah.
It's very interesting. So I'm not sure whether in France, I have seen occasionally in France where they net the vines, but not very often. I think because of the nature of changing the microclimate, and making it a bit more humid. Anyway, back to Margaret River and back to Lenton Brae. So tell us a bit. We've got 2 different styles of wine from you on our list, which is the Lenton Brae and the Willowbrook wines. Can you explain to our customers what the difference is between those 2 ranges?
So the Willie Abrupts range is exclusively off our Willie Abrupts property. It sees our best oak. All the wines are handpicked, and we put in all the efforts into those wines. That's the top tier. So the Chardonnay, it's 30-plus-year-old vines. The Cabernet is now 37-year-old vines. The Chardonnay is the new unique clone to Western Australia called the Gin clone. And then the in the Willie Abrupts Cabernet, we've actually been very fortunate to have a 412 clone, which we got out of France, and a 338 clone that no one else in Margaret River actually has at this stage. So
dare I ask how you came to have this unique clone?
Ed Tomlinson, the previous winemaker, went to Bordeaux and got some cuttings and put them into quarantine and slowly planted it in.
Because of course this is the protection, is it's a very long
2 years
process.
Yes, because Western Australia's phylloxera free.
This is something that also is fascinating. Phylloxera free, ungrafted vines, which is a really big deal in Europe. There's even a new society of Franc-à-Pied, so sort of the naked vines, naked roots. But you're there without a problem with this.
No problems whatsoever. But Western Australia, diversity off wine, we got through COVID because we could isolate the whole place.
So you are like a separate little continent.
Oh, the beautiful thing about Margaret River is that if you look at Western Australia, or Perth, is the most isolated capital city in the world. So we're 2,800 kilometres from Adelaide. That's our next closest. But then if you look at the climate, the tidal around the Indian Ocean, how those tides flow, the only country that could influence our waters is South Africa, 8,500 kilometres away.
So you really are like an island within a continent.
But it means our air is so fresh, our water's so clean. It is just idyllic there.
How perfect.
And looking at the stars at night, it's like you can count every star. You just don't. I don't see it, and I travel the world. I don't see it anywhere.
How very exciting. I haven't yet been to Margaret River, to Western Australia. It's on my hit list, definitely. So tell us also about your winemaker.
So Vanessa Carson, she's been in winemaking for now 20 plus years. She's had many vintages throughout France. And she's also worked with Lewin Estate in Margaret River, which is another winery there. Franklin Estate, Ferngrove, and she's now just joined us since vintage 2021. She's making she likes the fruit just talking to the wine. She doesn't want to overcook it, and she always says that I will get great fruit. I've just got to not. I can't say this, can I? F it up.
It's up to her to translate it.
Yes. So she really works hard with our viticultural Russell, who looks after our vineyard as well as our contract vineyards. And so those two are like a team that are joined at the hip around the whole year, working with our growers and working with our own.
So you mentioned contract vineyards, which is something we've discussed previously on some of our videos. So you have vines, fruit that you essentially buy in, but you actually aren't. You're growing the fruit. You're looking after the vineyards yourselves.
Correct.
And then harvesting yourselves.
Correct.
So it's very much your fruit. It's almost like you're renting the vineyard.
We're leasing the vineyard.
You're leasing the vineyard.
Yeah.
And are those close by, or are they separated around?
I've got some about 50 kilometres away in Carradale, which are some new ones that you don't bring in here, but some interesting ones that we're doing down there. And then most of them are in the Willie Abrupts region, right near us, 5 minutes away.
Which is, as you were saying, mentioning to me previously, although Margaret River is the region, there are subzones which are recognised.
Seven sub-regions.
And they're recognised as different pecking order of quality.
Yeah. And Willie Abrupts is like the best of the best. So when you're talking about Chardonnay, Willie Abrupts grows some Chardonnay that is, in my opinion, some of the best in the world.
Fantastic. Well, there we have it, I think, don't we? The best Chardonnay in the world. Andrew, thank you very much indeed, and happy Australia Day when it happens.
Yes, tomorrow.